Hi, this is Angela McFarlane and you're Stampin' with AMAC, and this week's feature products are the Piece of Cake bundle, and that's this beautiful stamp set with this matching punch which cuts out the cake stand and the cake. Now I'm going to be making a card with you today, but I'll show you how to do it. This is a card that I have cased from the Occasions catalogue, so it's a little bit fancier and a few more layers than I normally do, but I do have a couple of weddings coming up in March, so I think they'll be really nice to use for that. Okay, so I've got a little bit to show you tonight. We'll start by taking a piece of A5 soft sea foam, and that is our card base. We'll just fold that in half. I'll pop that to the side, and then I've got a piece of shimmery white which is 10 centimeters wide by 14.3 centimeters, and a piece of vellum which was 6.5 centimeters by 10 centimeters. So this vellum creates a really little soft layer here which just adds a little bit of softness to the card, and you'll see that with the finished product. Now I did the most of the stamping. You could use the Stamparatus for this, but I did it in freehand, and I used mint macaron, and I'm using 3 different stamps for it, 3 of the different cake ones. So I'll just start the stamping. I'll just pop a scrap piece under for when I stamp off the page. So this takes a little bit of time. You could use the Stamparatus for it, but I'm just freehanding. I'm trying to keep them fairly straight. It's not too difficult to line them up. So that's my first 3. And then I want to leave a little bit of room for the cake toppers as well. So this one I'll just stamp off the page to start with, just to mix up the design a little bit. So you just continue doing this until your piece of cardstock is full with the design. Making sure I just leave a little bit for the cake toppers in all of the cases as well. And stamping off just gives it a little bit of character as well. And this last row I didn't leave enough for the cake toppers, but that won't matter. So now I'll just pop the cake toppers on all of the ones that are the same. The Mr. and Mrs. is a really cute greeting as well, which suits the occasion perfectly. And you can see how quickly and easily you can stamp these. So the little hearts, it's only one heart, but you can sort of line them up next to each other and prop them on a little bit of an angle. So you can see how it's really starting to take shape. And it doesn't matter that I've overlapped things a little bit either. So before I go any further and do my fancy elaborate bits and pieces, you'll notice on this card that it's not white. So I've actually done a little bit of a watercolor wash over this. So I'll do this now so it gives it a little bit of time to dry. Now all I've done for that is popped a drop of re-inker and this is the Mint Macaron Reinker, and I've just popped a drop on there. And then I get my aqua painter and I just add water in there, and I want it quite watery because I don't want the colour dark at all. So I'll just see, I'll see on a piece of shimmery white how dark that is. I think I might add a little bit more water to that because I want it a little bit softer. Okay, when I'm happy with that, all you do is just watercolor around all of your little cakes, and that just adds a nice little bit of contrast as well, and an extra little touch to your card. So you don't have to be super neat with this because it is a watercolor wash, and when this dries it'll lighten up a little bit as well, and it'll just give a nice little effect and take the starkness of the shimmery white away, so it won't be sticking out as much. If you like, you can go through the hearts as well. You can leave some of them with a shimmery white poking through, and others you can colour in if you want to. I just keep adding water to it because you want it to blend. You don't want it really blotchy, but I guess if you did have it with stronger bits of colour, it really wouldn't matter. It all comes down to personal taste. So I just swish that through, and once I've done all of that, I'll just set it aside to dry. And I haven't gone really close to the images either. I'll just pop a little bit in between there. So I'm happy with that. Once you're finished with your brush, just squeeze the excess moisture out of that, or excess colour rather. Give that a clean. And that's how quick and simple it is to do a little watercolor wash. So that is going to curl a little bit, but as we stick it down, once it's dry, it'll be fine. Just pop that to the side. Now to create this embellishment, it's quite an elaborate piece. For the base of it, I have used this punch, which is the Tailored Tag punch. So this can be found in the current catalogue. It's had a fair bit of use. To save a little bit of time, I've run a piece of grey granite through an embossing folder, and I used the New Lace Dynamic Textured Embossing folder. It's a really, really pretty one. So what you can actually do, I lined it up for this previous card that I made. For the next one, I'm going to line it up this other way. And I actually want the flower to be showing in it. So I'm going to line it up and just punch that out, put that aside. And then for all these other little bits and pieces, I didn't have the framelits that they used in the catalogue, so I improvised. So the ones that I had that I thought were similar and would work was the Flourish Thinlits. So I used the leaf, this little piece and this little flower, and I thought that worked quite well. And I also used the Rooted in Nature framelits. So I used this bit which gives you the embossed bit, and then I cut it out with this framelit. So I've pre-cut all of these bits and pieces that I'll need. And I'll also used the leaf punch that we have and the sprig punch as well. So this is quite an elaborate card, and it's not my usual style, but I really liked it, and it showcases the piece of cake stamp set beautifully. So the next thing that I'm going to do, to save a little bit of time, I've just pre-stamped the Mr. and Mrs. I did that in grey granite, I'll use the banner punch, I'll line that up nicely and punch that out. Pop that aside. So that is going to get layered on top of there. And I'll just use a little bit of, I think I'll just use some dimensionals to stick that on actually. I'll pop it up a little bit more as well. And it'll stick well to the textured embossing on the card. So I want to line that up, and I want the flower showing. I also want a little bit of the punched out bit showing as well. So that is that part. And then with these leaves, I wanted to add a few little veins into them as well. So I've just got all my other little bits and pieces ready to go there. And what I did with those to add some extra dimension, extra texture to them was I got my Take Your Pick tool, and I got the small little burnishing end, and I just sort of free-handed a few little veins into that. So that also gives a little bit of extra texture for your leaf as well. So I've done that. So it's as simple as that. Then what I did to layer all of this, to save a little bit of time, I've stamped the cake image in Grapefruit Grove, and I'll just punch that out. I'm using my little trick that I did last week with a little post-it note. Once again, this is stamped on shimmery white. So I'll just line that up, punch that out, so that'll be ready to go. And then I've also got the cake stand pre-stamped as well. So line that up, and that's ready to go. Okay, so now that I've got all my bits and pieces, the easiest way to assemble all of this, I found, is to add a bit of double-sided tape to the back. I'll add a few pieces of double-sided tape to have it all covered, and I'll probably add some as I go along as well. And I find it easiest to work from the front and start layering bit by bit from, you'll see as I'm holding it up, from the top layer. Okay, so I want my little flourish bit to come out of about here, and then next I want my little leaf to add some layer there. As you can see, when you're looking at it from the front, I just make sure I find a sticky bit to attach that leaf to. Try to unstick my fingers. Okay, and then I add one of these little bits in as well. Hopefully I've got enough sticky bits, and then to finish it off I'll add this one. So as I said, this is much more elaborate than my usual style, but I think a wedding warrants a little bit more elaborate than usual. It's a special occasion. Now, just to attach all of these so they don't come loose, I've just popped another bit of double-sided tape, which I'll leave sealed for the minute while I assemble the other side. So once again, I'll start with the little, excuse my hand, and my scratches. They're from Keith. He got a little bit excited over the weekend. I'll just pop that one, and then this is the little sprig punch So I want that sort of coming in between. Make sure I attach it. And then, so I've just got the contrasting colours as well that they've used in the catalogue. This pink was actually petal pink that I've used. Oops, and that one's fallen off, so I'll just add a little bit more double-sided tape here to give me a little bit more stability. Okay, that's better. And then I will add more double-sided tape to the bottom of that, because I want to add the cake stand. So I'm just going to line that up with the bottom. I can even sort of slot that in a little bit. There, I want that nice and straight, so the stand's straight. So I know that's attached to my card now. Well, not to the card, to the label. So there's a little bit of fiddling and stuff involved with this layer. And then to finish it off, well, almost, I want to add the cake to the top. So you want that sort of centered with the cake stand as well. So let me see if that's looking straight. No, it's looking a little bit wonky at the moment. I think I'll just sit this down, then I'll sit that. Oh, bear with me while I get this straight. Okay, so in the meantime my leaf has flipped over and I've lost my cake stand. Goodness me. Let's try again. Sorry, I'm just concentrating here a little bit. Hopefully the stand's attached, and then I'll just reattach the cake and fiddle around with that a little bit. I can overlap these a little, and then hopefully, oh, okay, so it's plan B for my cake stand. Going to pop a mini dimensional onto this because it's not cooperating. So hopefully now I'll sit that on. There's so many layers, which is the tricky part. Okay, happy with where that is now. And I think I'll do the same with the bottom of this as well, just to give it a little bit of extra security. So it sticks to my paper piercing mat now. I want to try to line the cake up so it's straight. Okay, that's looking a bit better now. So now back to my leaf that's fallen off. I'll just reattach that. Now that I've got everything where I want it in place, I will add a whole heap of dimensionals over the top of this. I hope you can see what I'm doing. So I'll overlap the dimensionals. I'll sort of put them over a whole heap of bits and pieces, so it just keeps it all together. So you want to be generous with your dimensionals for this. And I think that I have forgotten one layer. I also have some twine here, and that's the Nature's Twine. and it comes in 3 colors, and mint macaron is one of them. So I cut off a length. I sort of looped it around my fingers about 3 times and cut off that length, and then I split it up into, I did actually pull it apart and unravel it into 3 parts. So I've just got one on the go that I've nearly done for this. So it takes a little bit of patience, but eventually you end up with a few bits of twine. So also I'm going to loop them up a little bit, so that can create a nice little bit of contrast as well. I might just sit that down and see if that'll attach itself already to some bits of tape and stuff that I've got there. Pretty happy with that. Loop it around the dimensional. Okay, so that's kind of sort of what we have for the embellishment. It is quite elaborate. Just pop that to the side and we'll keep going with this. Now, because I've used the watercoloring on this and it has buckled a little bit, I will pop some double-sided tape on this before I attach it. And this video is much longer than my usual ones because it is a far more elaborate card, but I do hope you like it. It's not my design. I've copied it from Stampin' Up, but it's called casing, and they encourage us to do that because the catalogues are full of inspiration and they're fantastic for that. So that's what I'm doing. And I stick that on nicely. And then the easiest way to attach the vellum, because you don't want any tape showing, I'll just do a little bit of a cross through the middle. I'll sort of line that up in the corner, stick that down, and then I will peel off all my bits and pieces of dimensionals, and I have lots of them here. So thank you for bearing with me. Please leave me a comment too. I'd love to see what you think, and if you're going to attempt something like this or use some of the techniques that I've showed you, or tell me which of the cakes is your favorite. There's actually 6 cake designs in this whole set. Just checking that I've peeled everything off, and I have. I'll just pop another mini dimensional under here as well. Right, so then I'll pop that over, and I will line that up, and the vellum will curl a little bit as well, and that's okay because it adds another dimension to the card. And I'll line that up, and it's nearly done. To totally finish it off, I'm using one of the really cute Blossoms elements. I'll just pop that there. You can see it a little bit better. And they're really cute, and they're in the annual catalogue as well. Thought it just makes it extra special by just popping that on top. So I hope you've enjoyed watching me make this, what I think is a really cute card, and I hope it inspires you to do something. And don't forget, this is my bundle of the week and my products of the week, and this is the gorgeous stamp set. Celebration is on. If you spend $90 with me, you will earn a free celebration item, as well as every $50 spend will go into a draw to win a $50 gift voucher from me to spend next month. So please say hi, please visit my store. Thanks for watching, happy stamping, and have a great day. Thank you.